Hello everybody, and welcome back to another World of Tanks video. Today we are going to take a look at the Hetzer, because today is kind of going to be a tank review. I think I'm going to market it as a tank review, so to say. But yeah, we're going to talk about the Hetzer. I'm not going to go over every single stat in this tank, DPM and whatever. I'm going to talk about something quite specific, but first let me go over the basics of the tank really. It's for a tank destroyer, it's rather fast. It has a nice meaty engine, at least for the amount of weight it has. Top speed of 42 kilometers per hour. It usually doesn't go much faster than a 30, but it can definitely hit the top speed. Its traverse speed is actually quite good, which is nice, so you're not going to get circle strafe to death very much in this tank. And its frontal armor is actually also quite nice. But the most defining factor of the Hetzer, at least to most people, and why most people know it and play it, is this gun, the 105mm or the 105 centimeter howitzer. Now this is a derp gun, of course. Now what I mean with that is it's a high caliber gun, so it does a lot of damage, but it's a quite short, quite stubby gun. This means that the shell velocity is quite low and the penetration is therefore low. Now generally speaking, from derp guns you fire HE. The HE in this tank has 53mm of penetration, which is not a lot, but it does do 410 damage. And because it's HE, it doesn't actually need to pen to do damage. So this is actually rather nice. Now to give you an idea, 410 damage at tier 4, there's only one tank at tier 4 who could survive this shot if it did full damage. That's the relatively new Type 95 Heavy. It has 430 hit points, so technically speaking, a high roll could actually kill a Type 95. That is assuming it penetrates, of course. 53mm of armor is actually quite good for tier 4 tanks. A lot of tier 4 tanks don't have that kind of armor, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm actually quite sure that HE doesn't lose any penetration downrange, the way AP does. If you fire AP, the further away from your target you are, the less penetration you're going to have. HE does not have this problem. That being said, there are definitely occasions where you want to use the AP with this gun. With 64mm of penetration you'll do 350 damage, but there's quite a few targets that will have right about that 50mm armor range. So you might want to load this tank, this ammo every once in a while, just to ensure yourself 350 damage. And if that's not enough for you, you can always load a few heat shells. I've got one loaded on my Hetzer, as you can see. And these have 104mm of penetration, which is just overkill for any tier 4 tank. 350 damage is very nice indeed. Its aim time is quite fast, but its dispersion is terrible, which is to be expected from a derp gun really. Now the rate of fire, just short of 7, is actually not that bad. But me and my friends have been having a little bit of a discussion off screen, because there's another gun you could very well use on this tank, and that's this one. The 7.5 centimeter gun. Now, one of the big problems with this, as far as I'm concerned, is, well, let's put it on here. It's not a derp gun. And I do like derp guns. But let's return to the derp gun here. Let me restock real quick. There we go. Anyway, this 7.5 centimeter gun has great deal more penetration, 110. So this standard rounds, the AP rounds on this gun, do more, have more penetration than the gold rounds on the derp gun, which is of course nice. But it does do significantly less damage, 110. However, the rate of fire is significantly higher. Now it's slightly over 2, which means this thing can fire 3 times for every time this gun fires once. This is quite a big deal, especially considering that when you're firing Hetzer, or when it's fighting Hetzer versus Hetzer, and you usually have HE loaded in your Hetzer with the derp gun, you can fire one shell at the other Hetzer. It won't pen because the Hetzer has 60mm of frontal armor, and yeah, then the other Hetzer shoots you 3 times, and that's plenty to kill you, and it will pen reliably with 110 pen. Now, the real question is, which gun do you use on this tank? Now on paper this thing has less DPM, so less damage per minute. So if I were to just flat out shoot for a minute straight, there's a certain amount of damage I could do with both of these guns, and this one would be worse on paper. because the HE shell on this tank, this 410, is actually more. And the 350 actually also. As we mentioned, this thing can fire 3 times for the Hetzers or for the derp guns 1. But this is still less. However, you generally fire HE in this with the derp gun, as you usually do with derp guns, and they don't always do full damage. As a matter of fact, they usually don't. They usually do between 150 and 250 damage in their shot. And yeah, then this tank will actually do more damage consistently, so to say. So if you can just keep on firing at your opponent, this gun would be better. However, I personally find that I like to just run around the corner and derp people in the face. Then turn back around the corner and wait until I'm reloaded. And that's something you just cannot do with the 7.5 centimeter gun. But yeah, I've been yapping on about these two different guns quite a bit now. How about we just put this to the test, shall we? We're going to show you 2 replays, one after the other. And first I'm going to show you my own replay. It will be Ace Tanker replays, of course, where I'm using the 105 centimeter, the derp gun. And then Ducanel will show us what you can do with the 7.5 centimeter gun. And I'll just leave it to you to see which kind of gameplay fits your style better, because that's really the thing with this this tank. Which gun do you prefer to use? Do you prefer the playstyle that comes with the 7.5 centimeter, or do you prefer the playstyle that comes with the 10.5 centimeter? Anyway, without further ado, let's go take a look at my replay. So here we are in the match, and you can see I'm in my Hetzer. Ducanel is also here, he's also in his Hetzer, and Nathaniel is in his T40. He's currently grinding towards the Wolverine, if I'm not mistaken. And for those of you who are paying very close attention, yes indeed, Ducanel has the DPM gun installed. You can see kinda, or at least part of the discussion here. Ducanel really swears by the DPM gun, and I really swear by the derp gun. Korsakov, for those of you who watch more of my videos, he's also a great fan of the DPM gun. So I'm outnumbered, I guess, but this is actually genius matchmaking to display why this gun is so amazing and why I love it so much. We're on a tier 4 match on Himmelsdorf, so nice close range, low tier tanks to shoot at, so little armor. And yeah, I've got my derp gun loaded completely with HE. You can actually see below here. This is before I chose to change my ammo layout a little bit. But yeah, pure HE is something you can definitely get away with in this tank. I'm going to speed up stuff a little bit, at least until I get to the top of the hill here. You can see T28 gets spotted, and I always get excited when I see a T28 with my derp gun, because I know I can one-shot that tank. 320 health is nowhere near enough to survive a HE shell, and I know I can pen that tank. Now Nathaniel is in trouble because a Panzer 1C is attacking him. I'm trying to make my way to him as quickly as I can, but he's just a little bit too much of a dip. And the spare Panzer is already getting to him. Now I'm able to take him out. One shot, of course, because that's what this tank does to lightly armored tanks, but unfortunately T28 finishes him off. Now I'm reloaded, and I can now go for the T28. And wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. Going to side scrape a little bit. See this tank, and goodbye tank. So this is something you just couldn't do with the DPM gun. Just fire twice, kill 2 targets. It's extremely satisfying, and in this kind of situation my DPM is actually better. That's of course a disadvantage you just saw, the accuracy, and Ducanel finishes him off. But he was already working him long before I actually showed up, so all in all I'm happy with this. Now the Hetzers, DPM and derp likewise are going to make their way down the hill to defend the base against the Matilda, a medium 3 and a Stuart and a whole lot of other stuff. Going to try and get there as quickly as I can. As you can see, this tank can be quite fast, but yeah, you definitely, when you're moving across terrain instead of a street, you definitely take a bit more time. Now the Matilda's downrange for Ducanel. Unfortunately he misses. This is definitely bad luck with that gun, because it's quite accurate, so unfortunate, but not really much you can do about it. He would have been able to pen that tank as well. The Matilda's a heavily armored tank, but yeah, the high DPM gun has enough pen to deal with this. See the tank, figured screw it, but Ducanel finishes him off before me. These low health kind of targets is not really where this tank feasts on. It feasts on full health targets with a whole lot of health left to destroy. Or full health targets with not a lot of armor, that was what I was getting at. Like for instance that little Valentine. Doesn't have a lot of turret armor if I'm not mistaken, so boom, I guess. Matilda's over there. I don't think we're going to get there in time to finish him off. This other Matilda's finishing him off quite effectively. Exchanging fire like a boss. Anyway, the our Matilda wins that fight and we're moving on. We decide to make our way towards the 3 line. We're expecting the enemy to push there. So that's our first order of business. We see a Marder T. Now I get excited about this because this is another tank I could quite easily one-shot, but so far not really. Ducanel goes back to deal with the BT-7 artillery, but there's a Matilda there as well. I see a Toldi, again lightly armored tank. He gets lucky, I hit his tracks, so it doesn't actually pen and does minimal damage. You can actually see the armor working here with the Hetzer. I aim for the frontal plate, doesn't really matter. That Hetzer is firing AP from his derp gun, and he's aiming at my upper plate, so when as long as I angle between my shots, he shouldn't really be able to pen me. However, if I'd have some AP loaded, I'd probably be shooting at this lower plate to try and pen that. Now, of course this would require some aiming and some time standing still. Able to put a shot in before he can. Again, I was angled there, so he can't really pen my tank. Hetzer is definitely a priority. LTTB is getting shot at. I can take him out. I knew I could beat his reload, so that's all good. I see the Marder in the distance. He sees that I see him, so he pulls back, and unfortunately my shot misses. But even with the occasional miss here, which is to be expected from this gun, I'm definitely doing a lot of damage. That was a very unlucky hit. I must have hit the heavily armored part of the tank. And this is definitely the derp life. The derp giveth and the derp taketh away. It's part of the life, so to say. Unfortunately that Marder was able to take out Ducanel here. But I'm already on my top gun and I'm looking for more. I definitely want to take out that Marder. And by the looks of it I'm going to get my chance. And there we go. Bit of a snapshot, but I felt like taking it, so there we go. 1355 damage. Let's go take a look at the post-game stats to see what kind of a result we had in detail. So here we have it, the post-game stats. This was my double. I got 2306 experience for this. Got my top gun of course, and we can see the carnage that I did. We can actually see also one of the properties of this derp gun. You rarely shoot at something and don't kill it. At least when you're top tier. So yeah, this was a rather nice match. I got 6258 WN8, which is of course very nice for my little tier 4 tank. It was 1153 base experience for my 1355 damage. Now naturally this was all against tier 4 and tier 3 opponents, so keep that in mind. This was definitely a magical matchup for the Hetzer, so I almost couldn't have a bad game here. Now we can see that because this other Hetzer was firing HE at my angled frontal armor, he never really was able to pen, so I got a lot of damage blocked by armor, 837. You can also see that I did, of the 14 shots I fired, I hit 11. Now there were a few more unlucky shots with this. This 11 pens isn't really penetrations, that's just damage you caused. Definitely less penetrations than actual hits. But all in all you can see the result here. It's a very nice result, but now let's see how Ducanel does in his DPM setup Hetzer. So here is Ducanel platooned up with Nathanael. This was actually earlier the same day as the video you saw just a moment ago. And yeah, as you can see here, the Hetzer without the derp gun, with the DPM gun. And this is a tier 5 match, though to be honest it's mostly tier 4 and tier 3. There are 3 heavy tanks on the enemy team, the KV or 3 tier 5 tanks on the enemy team. The KV1, the OI Experimental and Skoda T24. But only the KV1 really has the frontal armor to challenge this gun. So all in all, this is already an example of why you might want to have the DPM gun. Because higher tier opponents aren't as big of a deal to this tank as or this gun as it would be for the derp gun. So the DPM gun with 110 pen doesn't really care that much for tier 5s. It can shoot them all day long, and it will pen most of the times, assuming you're firing at semi-intelligent locations on enemy tanks. I mean, even the KV1 shouldn't be that big of an issue. You spotted an M2 medium, tier 3 medium tank. And there's the KV1, who's actually AFK. And as I mentioned, this is the only tank who could actually have some difficulty with. And he does. He's bouncing off of the angled armor. Ducanel decides to wait a little bit because this 1C decided to unload a full clip into him. Didn't do any damage, of course, because the frontal armor is quite nice of the Hetzer. But this M2 medium definitely overextended, so it's easy pickings for Ducanel here. He sees in the distance a Marder 2, misses his first shot, hits his second, bounces a heat shot, and bounces an AP shot, or an AP shot. Not sure who was firing heat at him, but it's definitely not a good idea to fire heat at this tank. At least not if you're bottom tier tank, so to say. There's the Hetzer. It might have actually been the Hetzer, in which case he got quite lucky, but that's 100 millimeters of penetration, and I don't think heat is a bit funny that way. Sometimes it really does well, sometimes it doesn't. Anyway, that's the Hetzer taken out. The KV1 appears to be trying to cross as well. So Ducanel gets into a position where he might possibly shoot at him. He also sees the Panzer III here. Now you can already see a difference in the kind of playstyle you'll have to get used to. This gun likes to be downrange of its enemies. It doesn't really like to get up close and personal and deal with them right then and there. At this kind of range, the armor of the Hetzer is actually really good. 60mm frontal armor is very nice, and you can't really make use of the fact that the lower plate is weaker because the Hetzer is so far down range. The shell would actually hit at a very strange angle. OI is fired. Ducanel finds a shot, and as you can see, he has no problems with this OI turret. Here's a Skoda, another tier 5 tank. And now he has 3 tanks to fight off here by himself. Panzer 1C not the most important target, so prioritizes the tier 5. And the other tank at the back gets taken out by, what was it? The Steward. Very nice indeed. OI Experimental is almost dead. He's already done 1400 damage, which is of course very nice indeed. And that in a tier 5 match, and it's not like he's been shooting exclusively on tier 4 and tier 3 tanks. He shot at the OI, he shot at Skoda. These are some big targets. Now this Panzer 1C has no hope in hell of penetrating the frontal armor of the Hetzer. If he got around the back, sure, but not at the front. Now you can see that he actually bounced a great deal of damage already. And there are some more tanks left for him to shoot at. So there we have a little Czechoslovakian tier 3 tank, is it? Yes. And Ducanel has set up the ambush. In the derp gun he would have probably gone out to try and find him, but in this particular case Ducanel finds, or he lets him find Ducanel, so to say. Which is definitely the way you should do it in a Hetzer. The OI Experimental is around the corner. He's waiting for him to fire, I think. Yep, that was a shot. Now he knows he can make his way around the corner. At least I would imagine he would do so. But it would appear he's quite ready to let the OI fire again. That was a heat shell by the sounds of it. I definitely heard sizzle. Okay, he definitely wants to set up an ambush here. It's actually a little derp gun the OI Experimental is using. And he puts a shot straight to the turret. Now he could have probably made his way through the little boobs at the front there, the two gun ports, but yeah, the turret works as well. 1700 damage, 5 kills, very nice indeed. Now let's go see what kind of a result he got in the post-game stats. Now as we can see, this was also an ace tanker for DuckNL here, but we can also immediately see the WN8 of his game was far higher. That is in part because he was firing at higher tier tanks, but also he just flat out did more damage than me. We can see he also got a fair bit of medals. He got cool-headed for 10 ricochets and non-penetrations in a row. That's probably due to this lovely little Panzer 1C, who's fired 2 clips in him without really much effect. But he bounced a great many more shots than just that, and we can see that because he actually got a steel wall. He received 1000 potential damage. I think he just about hit that. Just. He also got a high caliber for doing a fairly large amount of damage. And that's not too surprising considering he did 1700 damage in this tier 5 match, which is easily double the of the next highest damage done on his team, and still by far the most on both teams. Over 1100 experience, which is of course also nice. When we take a look at the detailed report, we can see he fired 21 shots, of which 19 hit and 17 penetrated. This is, shows the accuracy of this gun a little bit more. And he was firing a fair bit down range, so that he was able to hit 19 is still very nice indeed. And the 2 bounces, of which one I can clearly remember being the KV one. The other one I, on the top of my head, can't really remember. But yeah, you can see that he blocked 1200 damage with his armor, which was of course why he received the steel wall medal here. And yeah, we can see he didn't really move very far, but which actually kind of shows the kind of playstyle that this tank has when you play it with the DPM gun. With the DPM gun you're definitely playing as a long range sniper. You sit at the back and take the shots down range. And this is very beneficial for this gun because it has the accuracy, it has the DPM to do so, and because you have a fair bit of frontal armor, down range it's actually quite good as long as you're top tier or close to it. If you're not top tier, you can still make use of, I believe, a fairly nice camo rating of this tank, so that's a way to play it. I personally prefer to get into the face of opponents and just derp them. I find this kind of gameplay more interesting, but yeah, it's hard to argue with this kind of results. Which gun is better? I don't really know. I leave this for you to judge which one you like best. Do you like to be the sniper, or do you like to get up close and personal and blast them in the face? Well, that's personal preference, I suppose. Anyway, I hope you found this video useful, or at the very least entertaining, because let's be honest, it were 2 very nice games. Thank you DuckNL, by the way, for sending it in. It was a nice match to see, and I'll see you for the next one.